Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining and welcome to our webinar, How to Build Full AI's App with Vercel, Next.js, and SingleStore. My name is Yukti Divedi, and I'll be your moderator today. One of my main jobs here at SingleStore is to organize weekly AI webinars, and we have 2 or 3 webinars per week. We demonstrate different data and AI use cases, different tools and technologies. Also, I post about any upcoming webinars every week. So if any of these topics are interesting to you, please feel free to connect with me to stay on top of the loop. Also, we all would love to hear your feedback or ideas on topics that you would like to see in future sessions. So please feel free to connect and drop a message to me or anyone from the team or anyone present here on LinkedIn. Speaking of future sessions, we've got amazing sessions that are coming up. On July 8th, we have Supercharge Your Postgres app 100x faster with SingleStore, demonstrated with real life examples. On July 9, we have Run SingleStore plus local LLM on your Mac for private data analytics with Olama. Great for people trying to run data that is private to them and they don't want to expose it to a cloud. And we had very recently we had a product launch that was that would enable Gen AI applications for all kind of enterprise users. So you please feel free to check it out on June. That was there on June 26th. That was called Unfreeze Your Iceberg Data for Real-Time AI. If any of these topics are interesting to you, please RSVP right now. You will see these topics very soon on your screen when the slides are shared by Vinija. If you can, please do it. Those slides will have the QR codes for everyone to scan, and they will automatically take everyone to the landing page. Coming back to today's topic, you're welcome to participate in the discussion throughout the session using the Zoom Q&A button at the bottom of your console. The slides are there, and please feel free to scan the QR code. So this will directly take you to the landing pages, and just sign up. It just takes 2 minutes. So moving on, we have an internal mission statement to try to answer 100% of audience questions for today's webinar, even if that means following up with everyone afterwards via email. This has got a little difficult over time because sometimes we have like a lot of questions that we can take up live, but we are absolutely up to the challenge. So please ask away and just make sure that you have logged into the Zoom with your name and email address, because we will not be answering any anonymous questions. So can we please go to the next slide? We love you guys to have a dynamic experience during this webinar. So please feel free to try out SingleStore notebooks. Anyone who tries it today will be entered for a chance to win either branded new AirPods Pro or Meta's new Ray-Ban LLM smart glasses. It's absolutely the winner's choice. Simply click the link that's present on your screen, or you can just scan the QR and log in. You may know that SingleStore has had a free trial offer for many years, but just in the past few weeks, we have also announced a free share tier, which Akmal or Vinija will talk about a bit later today. So you also must have noticed that we have an auto RSVP button that is present on our landing pages. So if you visit any landing page for our webinars, there is a checkbox to auto register. So which will automatically add future upcoming Zooms to your calendar. Obviously, you don't need to attend each session live, but this is just an option for those who have requested to automatically receive the video recordings and the GitHub links or any other resources that are relevant for the session. So let me announce our speaker today. So we have the real database expert. Joining us today is Vinija Jain, who is a subject matter expert and AI leader at Amazon. We are very happy to have you here, Vinija, and she's also a regular speaker at our webinars. So we also have Akmal, who's a SingleStore expert and will be answering any technical questions for everyone. Very happy to have amazing panel of experts today. So let's get this started. Akmal, would you like to talk a bit about SingleStore before starting?
Yeah, great. Well, thank you very much. So we just have typically a couple of slides just to introduce the product and the company. And so SingleStore has actually been around for some time. 2011, it was actually founded. Previously used to be called MemSQL. So that was both the name of the product and the company. That might give you a little bit of a clue as to where the focus was. So it was very much around in-memory processing for OLTP, online transaction processing, and achieving, enormous sort of speeds processing that kind of data. Some years ago, added the capability to do columnar storage and analytics. Okay, so these kind of operations, sum, min, max, average, count that you want to do at scale, requiring columnar support. Okay, and so change in terms of the name of the company and the product. So SingleStore, as you can see, makes a lot more sense. Subsequently added this kind of universal storage. So yes, we can process both OLAP and OLTP, but we can do so now with this kind of universal storage and other sort of capabilities as well. As you can see mentioned on the slide, point-in-time recovery, shared nothing architecture. It's MySQL wire compatible. So if you're familiar with MySQL, for example, and the various tools and technologies that I can integrate with, SingleStore can integrate with those as well. One other interesting point is that we are also MongoDB wire compatible. So the product can support MongoDB apps, for example. We can use CDC, change data capture. We have a tool that allows you to ingest data from MongoDB and be able to run those without any code changes. Okay, next slide, please, Venetia. Thank you very much. So this is the kind of the high-level overview, if you like. So at its core, as you can see in the middle, very much this product with this universal storage. On the left-hand side, this is not an exhaustive list, okay? These are just some examples of technologies that we can integrate with. So Kafka, for example, you can see there, Spark for machine learning and transformations. And then perhaps if you have data stored on external services such as S3 buckets, for example, or maybe you're using Hadoop or HDFS, you can ingest from those as well. So the little bit of animation there you can see near those technologies giving you this kind of clue that we can ingest at scale in parallel. And this is this concept of pipelines that the product uses. Along the bottom there, you can see that we work happily with a variety of technologies. So the three major cloud providers in the Western world, Amazon Web Services, Google Cloud, Microsoft Azure. Obviously today, Venetia, I'm sure you're going to be using AWS. So we recently did some events. And actually, one of my colleagues today is approached me. We are planning some forthcoming webinar as well with AWS. We'll be focusing very much around machine learning technologies as well. So look forward to that and the announcement for that very, very soon. Can run on-prem as well, okay? Within the portal, the link that Yukti will share with you, you can create an account literally in less than a minute. And once you get into the portal, there is an area where it has settings that you can actually get access to a license that will allow you to install a 4-node version of the product. These are as kind of tarbles, if you like, wherever you want in your on-prem, in the cloud, if you have an account somewhere. And you can do so free of charge. So the only restriction with that is just the number of nodes you can install, which is 4. And we have a few customers doing that. There's also a Docker container as well. On the right-hand side, very quickly then, just almost to wrap up. So the stored data types, relational, obviously. I mean, that's where the roots of the technology came from. But it does geospatial, time series. We've covered these in previous webinars as well. JSON as well, key value. We have a customer actually using it for that sort of purpose too. And last but not least, vectors. So very popular topic today, obviously, because of generative AI, all the interest in these technologies. And of course, Amazon does a great job through Bedrock, giving you access to various encoders. So you can use their encoders for text, for example, and there are others for chat and so on as well. So these are very, very useful. Have a look at that. And again, we covered that very recently. So I did the AWS Bedrock, I think a couple of weeks ago, in fact. And then finally, as you can see, a variety of things in terms of what you can utilize the technology for: real-time decisions, IoT, dynamic experiences, and then along the top there, the dashboards, ad hoc queries, machine learning. Machine learning, obviously, a very popular topic, and Venetia, I'm sure, is going to cover some elements of that today. One quick word about dashboards. We do have this notebook environment built in to the SingleStore portal now, which, if you are familiar with Jupyter, for example, and you like using Python and SQL, that's a great way to really get productive fast and then create charts and graphs very quickly. So if you are familiar with Matplotlib, for example, Seaborn, I like Plotly and Plotly Express in particular because a lot of fine sort of control in terms of the data. and you can actually click on the graphs and see the data points themselves. But that's very easy to do. But equally, if you use technologies such as Tableau, for example, those are easily plugged in using JDBC and ODBC, for example. Okay, and with that, I will bow out and hand over to Venetia. So I will go dark now, but I'll be there helping Yukti with the Q&A. Okay, so if you have questions, please post them and we'll do our very best to answer them today. And as Yukti says, if we can't, we will follow up with you after the event. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Akmal. And just wanted to mention all of the stuff that he's covered here today, the free share tier, the notebooks. If not today, you've at least seen it in the prior webinars. All of the demos here are actually done on the free share tier. So just to give you kind of a background on what you can actually accomplish with just their free share tier itself, with their notebooks, with their database, their vector database, all in one place together. So to go over today's agenda, we will be covering a full stack AI application, and we will be integrating it with Vercel for deployment. It's the front end is in Next.js by Vercel. And we will be using SingleStore for the back end here. The integration between Vercel and SingleStore couldn't be any easier, and we'll go over that too on how you can get your app integrated and started. And with that, let's get started. So this is how to build full stack AI applications with Vercel, Next.js, and SingleStore. Kind of wanted to start by giving a sneak peek into what we will be building at the end of this and what the demo will have. So what we have here is we have a kind of web application fully here, and what it does is it takes in sort of for now simplistic information. This is actually V1 of what I was working on. I've since added a little bit more, but basically what it does is it takes your name, it takes your email, it will populate it on the website for you to be able to visually see. And then the back end, what it's doing is it's actually updating the SingleStore's database in order to store it. And that's all powered by Vercel. This is all coded. The front end is all Next.js, and SingleStore is the database we're leveraging for the back end. And just to add a little bit of machine learning flair to it, I added a little bit of a classification. Now, this is done via an API call, and this is just a little fun classification. What we're doing is all of the names we're adding in, we'll just classify them as common or uncommon. And again, this is just an API call to a classifier. This is just to kind of show you what is possible. There's obviously different applications of machine learning that you can do. We'll talk about the different options as well. You can definitely leverage RAG here. SingleStore has great functionality for RAG. Those have been covered in demos previously. So today, tried to do something a little bit different. So let's start with Vercel. What is Vercel? And we'll talk about how to use it and how to ramp up to it. It's very easy to use, very easy to just get up and get started. So it's a cloud platform for static sites and serverless functions. What that means is basically it's a platform. It's a very powerful platform designed for deploying, managing, scaling static sites and serverless function. It offers kind of the seamless experience for developers who launch web applications with ease. They also offer templates. So say you want to start off and you don't really know what to create, they'll offer you Vercel templates with Next.js already in it. And all you'll have to do is get it down locally, add in your environment variables, deploy it. The second you deploy it, Vercel knows there's a new version of the code coming in. They just start the build automatically and they update your deployment link, and you can see your your new changes already up and live. You can also run it locally via npm run dev and just test any changes locally as well. But I found that actually just pushing the code and testing on Vercel was a lot easier than running it locally. And this is kind of a first for me. Usually running it locally has a lot of benefits. It's quicker, but in this case, honestly, just deploying it on Vercel was a lot faster, and it just got me to my end product a lot quicker. The logs, everything is all in one place. So very easy to debug back and forth. There's no lag time between when you commit and when it starts building. It's maybe a few seconds. It's very quick. And even if you have several commits back to back, it queues your commits. It understands that it needs to go in an iterative fashion. You can also actually choose to cancel a build, all in a UI format. Very easy to use, very interactive there. And Vercel is also actually the creator of Next.js. So it's the company behind Next.js, and all Next.js is, it's a popular React framework for building fast and scalable web application. It's very user-friendly, and it has so much documentation on their site alone. I think this is just a screenshot from my page. You can see the documentation right here. So much information that you don't feel stranded in building out your first application. So how do you use Vercel? How do you set up a project, deploying using their dashboards? Setting up a project is very easy. There's different ways you can do it. First of all, you'll have to create your account on Vercel. Once you have that, there are two different options, I believe, to create an account. You can create a hobby account, they call it, which is the one I'm going to show you in the demo. And then you also have the option of creating an account for your org or for your company or entire, organization, basically. Then what you can do is you can link your GitHub, GitLab, wherever you store your code repository. And then you can either import your project from your repository, or you can start a project from scratch. And starting a project from scratch doesn't necessarily mean from zero. You can just leverage one of their millions of templates that they have. You can scroll through the gallery. It's amazing the different use cases that they have there. They have machine learning applications. They have just regular medical or just finance, any variety of different applications that you can just choose from. You can alter them. You could see how they work for your use case. And all you'll have to do is you'll have to customize the settings. And I'll walk you through that as well on the Vercel dashboards. You'll customize your build settings, your environmental variables, any domains, any custom domains you want to use. And deploying, you can choose to do a manual redeploy, but basically the way deployment works is the second you commit to the main branch, it automatically triggers deployment. Yeah, like I said, you can also trigger deployment manually, but there is no need. You just have a push to main and the build is already running in the background. And it gives you your, if you don't have a custom domain, it'll give you the domain link right there once it's done building. And you just have to click that on the deployment page and you can see your web page live. You can also alternatively choose to use the CLI. And in order to do that, you just install the Vercel CLI. You run the deploy command, and then you configure and manage locally. So those are the two different options. And the dashboard on Vercel is probably one of the most important tools. It helps you access and manage all of the different projects you have. There's monitoring, performance, logging, traffic, debug your applications, deploy your applications. All of it is held within the kind of the dashboard itself. So we went over this briefly, but many benefits of leveraging Vercel. It's very easy to use, one-click deployments, and honestly, you don't really even have to think about deployments. All you really have to think about is just within your code and making sure it's getting up to main after you've tested it. And once it's in main, it's gonna just start running and building by itself. Automatic SSL, secure your applications with automatically managed SSL certificates. Global CDN, distribute your content across a global CDN for fast load times, low latency. It has image optimization for better performance. Developer experience was one of the greatest experience I felt on this platform. where each pull request generates a unique preview URL, and it also enables easy collaboration, easy testing. You can share that URL and just get everyone to go ahead and see it, how it's looking, how it's working. There's built-in integrations. There's GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, and SingleStore also actually as a built-in integration here. There's scalability, there's edge network, leveraging Vercel's edge network for faster response times here. Analytics, you can also actually do RBAC role-based access control. So different members of your team, maybe some should only have read access, maybe some should have read and write access, edit access, whatever. You can customize that, you can manage that very easily, all within the Vercel dashboard. And this is all, you can just do it on the UI itself, which makes it very easy to do. And you can also share it with other members of the team who are not necessarily developers to help kind of modify these configurations, have it up and running. So now just want to briefly talk about Next.js. So what is Next.js? Next.js is the React framework by Vercel. It's built on top of React, and it's designed for creating fast, scalable, dynamic web applications. It's developed by Vercel, and it brings additional features to React, such as server-side rendering, static-side generation, has data fetching, CSS support, route handling. Middleware is something you'll see here too that's new. And what middleware will do is it'll take control of the incoming requests that your application is having, and it'll define the routing and access rules for authentication, experimentation, and internationalization there within the middleware. It makes sure that you have the proper authentications and the proper access in order to view the application. That's something you'll have to do if you're looking to integrate with third party, if you're looking to have different web traffics, if you're looking to have rule-based access management. Middleware is the layer that will help with that. There's dynamic HTML streaming, instantly stream UI from the server, integrate the app router, the React suspense, client-side and server-side rendering. So there's flexible rendering and caching options here, which is, and this can be done on a per page level, which is very cool, very new here. Yeah, so those are some of the key attributes that Next.js brings here. It makes really visually stunning applications, and if you start out a Vercel app from scratch, even, you'll have the kind of template to work off of. So you won't really need to work and create custom CSS. It comes in with a lot of CSS already there. You can modify it, you can change it up however you like, but I think that really helps support, especially if you're looking to just, get up and running as quickly as possible. So now let's talk about the other component here that our application has, and that's the SingleStore database that we will be leveraging here. Kind of wanted to again give you a preview of what this will look like for our use case. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm using the free shared tier here. You can see the credits I have remaining here. And you can also see the different offerings you can see on the SingleStore portal itself. So this is the database. This is our table for users. We have email, name, username. Then we have this. So this is the database section. What you'll do is you'll create a new workspace. You'll start your workspace, and within your workspace, you'll have your database already there and active. And then it'll get the information running. This is where you'll need to leverage your credits. Then you also have the develop platform here, monitoring, very important to be able to monitor your application, any alerts, any other information that you'll need. And I believe Akmal had mentioned that there's notebooks here. There's notebooks right on top of here that are integrated. We've used them in all the webinars in the past, so I definitely recommend you go back and take a look there. But SingleStore also offers a gallery of code to start off with. So when you start off and you have your free tier there, you can start off from the gallery, pick up a notebook, play around with it, kind of connect it to the SingleStore database, whether you need vector, you need rack capabilities, traditional SQL capabilities, whatever you need, it's all in one place, which is what I really love about this platform. I don't need to create connections to different databases, just spend hours figuring out if it's working all together in harmony. It's all there together, all in one place, really easy to spin up and start using. So just kind of also wanted to share how the vector querying works within SingleStore. So this use case is specifically to get the top 5 closest match to a query image. So you can see that the syntax here is very similar to SQL. Select the vector from people where the file name is Emma Thompson, and that's the image, Emma Thompson JPEG. So this is what we have set, right? Now what we want to do, and that's what we set in our variable name right here. Now what we want to do is we want to select the file name and the vector type, which we've set here, v, as score. This is the dot product specifically used as the similarity match. You can choose to use different similarity matching metrics here, but here we specifically use the dot product. From people, order by score, limit 5, and you can see the results here, all scored in the most highly correlated via dot product and least correlated. It's already coming out pre-ranked. So that's pretty neat to see, very easy to use, as you can see here. Okay, so now let's just talk about the database overall in general. The SingleStore database, you can kind of talk about its offering in 3 different steps here. There's transaction, there's search, and there's analytics. So transactions powers the mission critical applications, and it's an ACID compliant SQL database. So it definitely is the traditional SQL database use case, and that's what we'll be using for our demo here today. Search, we saw the little example there for vector search. It also does full text search, relational filters, all in a single query engine, and analytics, high throughput data ingestion on disk, and it joins over hundreds of tables all together. There's also hybrid search available, and we've done a prior webinar on hybrid search use case itself. I definitely recommend you go back and check that out as well. And again, this the database here couldn't have been more intuitive, more easy to use. It's just like Vercel, the front end, the deployment was built for developers. The database and the notebooks here are also built with the developers in mind. It was very easy to just get the database spun up and running, have the queries integrated, just be able to visually see what's going on, visually be able to see what columns are being added, what data is being added. Really, really cool, really simple to see. So would definitely recommend you go ahead and you try it for free. And in that, just also wanted to mention the free shared tier. All you have to do is just sign up with your name, your email, and that's all. That's all you need to do to be able to get the free shared tier. And like I mentioned earlier, these are all the offerings that you'll have. Once you do that, once you log in, you'll have the homepage, the cloud. This is the custom database that I created for our demo today. The SingleStore workspace, the development environment, the monitoring, the ingestion pipeline that you can also use in order to get your database's data in there and integrated all together. Oh, and the homepage here, this gallery is the gallery of code where you can just select, and it has all the code from prior webinars as well as other code, and you can just select that to get started with your notebooks and just start working and coding as you'd like, instead of just kind of starting from scratch and from zero. So now I wanted to talk about the Vercel and the SingleStore integration and how does that really work together. how do you integrate so now you have your very snazzy web application there in the front end. How do you integrate that with the SingleStore database on the back end? It's very easy. It actually surprised me how easy it was. There's two things I think you need to do. There's one step you need to do on the Vercel side, and then one step you need to do on the SingleStore side there. So on the Vercel side, all you have to do is essentially you'll have to add these 3 environmental variables. And you'll have to, this actually is not something you will even need to add. This will be automatically added for you once you log into your SingleStore account. When you click the kind of configure button, I believe it is. What it'll do is it'll just pull out your host, your username, your password itself, and that there's nothing that you need to do, and it'll set those variables there for you from the get-go. So yeah, just to go over that, from Vercel, you'll go to the web page, you'll click the add integration button there. That'll make you log into SingleStore, and then you'll manage your settings of whether you want one application to be using SingleStore, or you want all of your Vercel applications on your dashboard to be using the SingleStore database. And then you'll have your environmental variables automatically loaded there. On the SingleStore side, all you'll have to do is you'll have to create your workspace in SingleStore, start your cloud workspace, and just create your database so that Vercel can then talk to SingleStore and have your data uploaded there. So now, before we get to the demo, kind of wanted to go over the details and other options that you can leverage with this use case. So just to quickly again showcase what we were working with here. Our demo today is a username and a name classifier, and the name classifier is common and uncommon names there. So what we have here is basically we'll enter the name, we'll enter the email, and then we'll classify it as common or uncommon. You can see I tried a few examples here. John was common, my name is uncommon. So there's that option, but here are the other options that you could have done with this use case. We could have used RAG, and RAG is done again in many of the prior webinars, so I definitely recommend you check that out and seeing how it works there. But basically, the RAG use case, just to briefly go over it, it has kind of, you can split it into 3 processes. There's the indexing process where offline you take your documents, you chunk them, and then once in different ways you can do either rule-based chunking, semantic chunking, and then once you have your chunking strategies decided and your documents all chunked, you can store it in a database, SingleStore's vector database. Then you want that's for your documents offline. Then when your user comes in with their query, you can query it. You can either rewrite the query, you'll have to embed the query, find the similarities of the chunks between your query and the database. You can re-rank them optionally, process all the chunks that you're getting, and then generate a response there. Now, so that's the kind of RAG pipeline we could have used here. And in that case, I wanted to mention this paper. It's called 7 Failure Points When Engineering a Retrieval Augmented Generation System. What this publication actually talked about was the different failure points that you can have in your flow and the different points that you would need to consider when you are building out your own RAG systems for your own use case here. So say in the ingestion pipeline in the database, you have missing content. Well, if your documents don't cover all the content that you have, then you can't possibly expect your response to have the correct generated response. Similarly, they found that if you that with the retriever and the re-ranker, it missed top ranked. So once you're doing retrieval of the chunks and you're re-ranking, and you didn't kind of retrieve those top ranked documents and items, that will kind of affect your response generation as well. not in the context. So you retrieved content that was not in the context, or retrieved content that was in the wrong format, not extracted, it was incomplete. All of these were the failure points that the authors had found that can kind of affect your response and your output quality. And your response here will have the user's query, as well as the pulled out documents from the database, all fed to the LLM as an expanded prompt to be able to generate an intelligent response for the user. Again, now, if all of these points you haven't really looked at in your application, then you can definitely lead to some kind of failure there. That's what the authors were looking to mention. Okay, so now for the demo. Okay. So this is the paper, and Yukti can have that shared with you after the call. But now let's look at the demo first, and then we can look at Vercel. Yes. Okay. So this is the application that we have. We can start with my name actually. Yeah. And then for my email, okay. See, uncommon still. Then we'll have John, and we'll just say john@gmail.com. Yeah, so John is common. Then let's do something like Jane Smith, and we can do jane.smith@gmail.com. Andrew. Uncommon as well. Interesting. So this is actually something that a classifier is controlling, an external classifier that I've added. I'm not sure internally how it's working, but kind of cool to see the uncommon and the common classification being done here. So that's our application, but now I kind of want to go into each of the components there. So let's look at each of the component. This is the Vercel dashboard that I've been telling you about. This is one of my deployments here, and the way I got to my demo was by clicking visit. So I clicked visit, and what it led me to was my web application that you saw there, and it actually gives you a little sneak preview of what it looks like. So even once you just kind of committed and ran your build, you can see what it's looking like. So if you had changed something in the UI, maybe a button color or something, you can just see it right here if the changes actually took. You can now see in the deployments also. This is the overview and the main dashboard. These are the applications I have. Let's go into the current application. So this is the current application. The domains, the build logs, you can see right here. You can actually instantly roll back to, which is very useful in case of any bugs or any issues happening there. The different deployments. So this is how many different commits I had just for this demo alone. You can see that, all of it together. And each of these different deployments, actually, if you open up, you can see how iteratively the app has changed over time. Analytics it offers, so you can just see, I haven't enabled any analytics for this. It's a simplistic demo that only is running on my screen. So, but you can add traffic, page views, visitors, whatever you like there. Insights, there's logging, there's firewall, there's actually storage also inbuilt and available. So you can just find a database here and you can just connect it and have it up and running. But it also lets you externally connect to, integrate with SingleStore. So what we will do is you come here back into your overview page, your dashboard here, and you go into integrations. And integrations here is where you'll have that button here where it'll say add integration. And you can see I've added the SingleStore database cloud here. And basically it's as simple as that. I can manage the access. Right now I've given the access to all of the applications that I have. I can but I've specified the projects. I can give it to all projects, whatever you like for your use case. These 3 environmental variables you can see that exist on my page. So These are the permissions that I've granted. I can also just remove the integration if I choose to, manage the access all in one place right here. Storage, again, the databases that are available for me to use. And right here, I believe are these settings. Yes, so within the settings, you'll see your environmental variables here. Project name, whatever other configurations you need to do, you can edit them right here. The domains, you can have a custom domain, environmental variables, all set up here. I believe it's leveraging my file now instead of having them listed here. The GitHub integration, the external SingleStore database integration here, deployment protection. You can also have cron jobs. You can add security. You can add data caching, purge everything if you like. Yeah, basically. So so to go back here, this is how you can add a new project. So if you wanted to add a new project, it gives you the two options that I'd mentioned. Either you go and integrate it with your GitHub and you import an existing project, or you can go ahead and browse their template here. And they have a plethora of different options. This is just one category, I believe. You can search, you can blog, whatever you like. All of these are very well-made, very well curated websites in and of themselves. So that is the Vercel side of things, and each of these already have Next.js internally for the front end. So that's how that will work. Now, for the backend, we have SingleStore here. So SingleStore, you can see the database. Basically, what you'll have to do is spin up your workspace and then have your data loaded. Oh, I shouldn't have clicked that. Okay, great. So you'll have your database loaded here with all of your columns, ID, email, name, username, and the indexes you can see. The sample data here as well, the email I had put, Jane Smith, and the few I had tested with earlier as well. It also added the usernames in. This is my own backend application that's allowing that to happen. Yeah, that's how easy it is to integrate from Vercel to SingleStore right here. And while we are here, I can also show you, so this is the workspace that I have. Now, this is the gallery of code. So these are the different notebooks and the different code that's available to you, evaluating LLMs with Uptrain, getting started with data frames in SingleStore DB. This is the hybrid full text and vector search that I'd mentioned earlier, as well as the hybrid search right here. Movie recommendations, SingleStore database notebook basics, thread applications, Kafka pipelines, whatever you'd like. There's a lot of different applications here. Vector search with Kai, so many different options right here. But yeah, that was our database there. And next, what I'll go through briefly is the entire code base that I have that you'll get a link for with your email that will be sent out to you right after this. But just to quickly kind of go over that code base here. So this is the entire application. The face of the application is this index.tsx, and tsx comes from, I believe, Next.js. So what this is, it's the face of the application you're seeing. So for now, I've removed the API key to push it out, but basically once you pull this code, you'll put in your own API keys, and this is the API that I leveraged in order to do the classification. And I have different functions here. So we're looking to add row, and so every time you enter a user's information, their name, their email, it will add a row so you can visually see it. And then what you'll have is, this is the simplistic form that was created there with the ID, the name, the email, the classification there. And then there's the submit button there. So that's the face of the application. Now in the backend, you'll have the add users. And actually, let me show you the SingleStore, the database file. I believe yes, it's this one. It's called SingleStore.ts. It's right here. This is the database layer application, and right here I'm using basic auth. You can have SSO, you can have more, depending on your use case, you can have more integrate authentications for your application, but I'm just creating a simple table here, adding rows, inserting users. This is the database name that we saw for my application done earlier. And we're also just retrieving users depending on which application, which kind of function I really need. So I have all of that there. And then per all of these tasks, we also have the API call. So we have add user here. And you can, when you actually build out your application for your URL, if you add a -API -add user, you can kind of see what this page will look like. And if the authentication fails on that page, all you'll see is fail to add user, get user, same thing, fail to fetch user, initialize, just kind of getting the table created. And if it wasn't able to create, fail to create the table there. So that's the front end there. I've also added all of the assets you see right here, the CSS, there's a globals.css, and then the home.module.css. This is the custom one for my use case. It has integration with CSS, which is really great if you want to add different, color schemes, whatever you need customization wise for your application. And I believe this is also, yes, this is also, I believe, where you can add access control, if I'm correct. So those are the kind of important pieces of this application that I just wanted to highlight: the database layer, the different API functions that are being called, and then the front end layer here, the index.tsx, as well as the CSS. So overall, it may look daunting, but it's overall pretty well structured and very easy to use. And you can see here, I've also ran it locally, and it compiled great. It gave me the local host where I can see the entire application locally as well. So very cool to see. Can run it locally. Any commits you do will have it up and building in Vercel immediately. And I was just on my main branch. I didn't branch out, so every push I did created a new build. And that's why you saw all of those different builds in the dashboard, but you can definitely have your own branch. You can test it out locally, and then you can move it to the main and then have it built and deployed on Vercel. And I believe Vercel can also kind of help you in figuring out which branch you want to build. Maybe you can add staging accounts, not just production. So maybe you can see what the staging environment looks like and just go from there. But yeah, I kind of wanted to pause here and see if there's any questions. We have about 12 minutes to go. So yeah, I'll hand it back to you, Yukti.
Thank you so much. That was an amazing demo. We have a lot of questions, but Akmal has taken care of a lot of them. So I think there was this one question, just yeah. So there is a question from Chitra. She says, also, what does this classification mean? Because I checked out for the GitHub, uh, checked out the GitHub for my info under classification. It said otherwise.
I'm sorry, I think you cut out, Yukti. What was the question? I think the last part cut
Are you
a little bit glitchy.
I'll just send it to hosts and panelists. Just you'll be able to read it from there. I think that would be better.
Okay, sure.
There. Did you see it?
Let me see. Chat. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Everyone, we starting with the Q&A session. The button is at the bottom of your console. So please feel free to ask away your questions. We will be taking these questions for the remaining 10 minutes. So just let the questions come in and we'll take up your question. Yes, Vanija,
Yeah.
please. Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. So just wanted to, okay, I understand the question. They entered their name and their name came out as uncommon. So just kind of wanted to mention here, this is a simple classification model. It's basically looking to do a binary classification, 0, 1, common, uncommon. This is a third-party API I used. I can share the API name, but you'll get it in when you look at the code base basically, and you can see how they train their model, what algorithm they use, naive Bayes, logistic regression, what data they use to classify common, uncommon names. Maybe it's just names within United States, maybe it's names globally. So you can kind of look into their website and see how they're doing the classifications, but that's basically what I leverage in order to do this. To kind of preview and show you what's possible. You can also change up and not do a classification. You can add in your own API and see how it works all together.
Right. Okay. So we have one question from Mohammed Saifullah Ansari. They say, can we build a wind power forecasting web app using SingleStore? I have a plot and code of machine learning and deep learning, like Enercast. Like, so what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that sounds very interesting. That's not a use case we've seen, but definitely you can do that. So honestly, you can do that with all of the different components we used here. If you need a visual side of it, you can leverage Vercel. Otherwise, for the back end or any of the machine learning training you need, you can look at SingleStore's notebooks. You can look at their database, vector SQL database, whatever you need. It's all in one place right here. I would say try the free shared tier. And see how you like it and see how your application's working.
Right. So, thanks for the answer. This is a very basic question from Manoj. Is one of the first questions that we had, and it's a very common question that I also come across. So, what problem does SingleStore solve? So, if you can, just elaborate on that, like that would be really nice.
Yeah, so that's a great question. I guess coming in as a machine learning developer with that hat, having all of these components in one place is very useful. If you're coming in from like the Jupyter notebook environment, you know that you need to integrate all of your different components yourself. You need to figure out your database. You need to figure out where all the connection works, and that's not something you want to spend your time doing, those connections, those configurations. What you want to do is spend your time actually coding up your machine learning applications. So that's what SingleStore helps you do. It just gets you up and running from 0 to 1 very quickly. It also helps you kind of give these, with these gallery of code, to not just get started from 0 and be intimidated, but you can kind of leverage these templates and build on top of that if that's what you need. So that's what I really enjoy about it. Even without these demos, I kind of resort to using SingleStore notebooks over others just because it's a very user-friendly environment. Yeah.
That is something that I have heard from so many people. So that they are not using Jupyter notebooks anymore. Since like I introduced it to a lot of my friends for their college projects, so they actually use SingleStore to build their college projects. I see Akmal. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just someone pointed out, Venetia, that you've included the .env file with credentials in the GitHub repo. Was that intentional or is
It
it
was not.
accidental?
It was accidental. I will go.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you probably want to remove it and
I will
or
remove.
change. Well, you
Thank you
will
for
want to
that.
change your
I
details
don't
there.
think
So
they're
thank you
very.
very much to that
Yeah.
for.
Yeah. Thank you so much for pointing that out.
Okay.
Thank you Akmal, for flagging that. That would
Okay.
have been totally lost in the questions. Thank you so much for like anyone that has actually put that out. So yeah, thank you. So we have more questions. So we have a question from Shiv Prasad. They say, how does SingleStore compare with Snowflake? So Akmal, would you like to take up this question?
Yeah, so for those that didn't attend the announcement and the event that we recently held, SingleStore will actually be available through Snowflake's own kind of environment. It's like better together. There was an argument that was used about that recently. But if you want to take the two technologies separately, so we are a data platform focusing on real-time analytics. So performance is the key there. We do OLTP as well. So Snowflake comes much more from I would say, from the data warehouse world. I mean, they have built a technology that is very easy to use. It scales, but it's great for storing large quantities of data, but perhaps not necessarily giving you immediate insights into that data. This is where really SingleStore excels. So fast performance, fast insights, and it offers a whole range of capabilities that we talked about a little bit earlier on, the geospatial, time series, JSON. It's got MySQL compatibility, MongoDB compatibility, and it integrates with all these other tools as well, really well. And so it gives you, a lot of capability. But it's a case of finding the right tool for the right job, okay? And there may be cases where Snowflake is better. There may be cases where SingleStore is better. You can use the two together, okay? And like I said before, check out the recording for the announcements that we had, which actually discusses how SingleStore can actually work with Snowflake in the Snowflake environment. I mean, how's that? So you get the best of both worlds.
Right. So I'll just put a link to our landing page, and everyone can check out the resources section. And if there's any anything that's relevant to your questions, you can just visit our webinars pages, and you can automatically request for the recording and just go through, or anything like reach out to anyone on the team at singlestore.com. So I hope we'll be able to help you all better. So we have one question from David. They say the advertisement says 100K plus connections. And what happens when you exceed? What is the scaling strategy, hash failure, hash failover approach? Is it taken on SingleStore?
I think this may
Would you like?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, was this something for me? I apologize.
Yeah, absolutely. Just give me a second. I'll just repeat the question. It's a
Yeah.
question from David. David says that the advertisement says 100K plus connections. What happens when you exceed? And what is the scaling strategy in case of a failure, failover? Is any approach taken on SingleStore?
Right. I
What's
mean, is that 100K connections for SingleStore, or is that Vercel? If it's Vercel, I can't answer for them. All I can say
right?
is that SingleStore can handle more than 100K connections. Okay, remember, we are a distributed database system. And so again, one of the recent announcements that we made is kind of auto scaling. So if there are kind of spikes in terms of usage, the system is kind of monitoring in the background, automatically it will scale up for you. It's not something you have to manage or take care of. So, this is great. For example, if you think about it, there are certain times of the year, for example, in United Kingdom, Easter time and Christmas time are very busy in terms of people going out, doing shopping, buying gifts. And therefore, you see a lot of businesses in terms of huge spikes in terms of online businesses as well. In China, for example, Chinese New Year, and in India, for example, again, there will be religious festivals or certain parts of the year where there is great demand and suddenly surge in sort of requirements. And so the technology needs to be able to scale up for that. So certainly as far as SingleStore is concerned, with all of the capabilities and the auto scaling we now offer, it can easily meet those kind of demands. If the question was really focusing on Vercel, I apologize. I can't answer that. So I don't know enough about that. Maybe Venetia has some thoughts on that. But I'm sure they have paid plans as well, and they offer, additional sort of capabilities that you might not be able to get. Typically, most organizations have some level of, you pay a certain amount of money, you get a certain level of support and capability in the product. So that's my thoughts on that. Sorry about it.
Yeah, David has clarified that was not for Vercel, it was just for SingleStore. So thank you for answering the question. We have a lot of other questions, but we'll just be able to take one more question because very sorry, we are on the top of the hour. So I'll just choose one more question. And so we have one question from Mike. They say, is Vercel the best front end for that? Would you recommend something else? I think this is a follow-up to a question. Right. So that was a follow-up. So from a data science standpoint, this is a question from the same person. If I am waiting to create an app to intake, analyze, and find specific information from large data up to 5 PB in the form of an answer and contextualized responses, is SingleStore postured for that in context to backends. The follow-up is Vercel the best front end for that, or would you recommend something else?
I can answer the front end part. Maybe Akmal, you can take the SingleStore part. So in terms of the front end, honestly, I think Vercel is definitely one of the best contenders here. It's very easy to use, very easy to get up and running. You can obviously have the option to go code from scratch or use a different platform. But just from my own use case here, I thought it was very simple to get it up and running, especially if you want to focus more on your backend technologies there. I would definitely give it a try.
Yeah, I was just looking at that eStore example, Kai eStore, which is something that we actually have, which is using a lot of this wonderful kind of Node.js to build the front end. I've seen it in action, beautiful, these graphs. So as performance peaks, you have these wonderful graphics showing you and moving. It's almost like meters, in terms of a car, for example, you see these performance gauges and things. It's wonderful. We should find the link and send that out as part of the follow-up email, Yukti. So you just find that link. And so if someone wants to try it out, you can try that one out. That's a great thing to do. All I would say beyond that, because I tend to do a lot of Python development, and I for the notebooks, I use usually Matplotlib and Seaborn just for the visualizations. But I very rarely build front-end sort of visualizations in the sense that, these are standalone applications anymore. A lot of it is just notebook-based simply because that's the nature of the work that I do. But I do like these libraries. Plotly and Plotly Express are my favorites for creating the charts and the bar graphs and things like that. And we do actually have Dash support built in as well to the platform as well. And normally, I think you need a subscription for that, but I think that comes as part of our environment.
All right. So thanks everyone for the questions and thank you so much for joining. I really want to thank our speakers and thanks Akmal for answering all the questions. And thank you, Vinija. So the announcement, I know we are at the top of the hour, so I'll just jump right up for our raffle winner. So the announcement that everyone's been waiting for, today's raffle winner goes to Miguel Gillen. He is the Director of Data Foundation and Architecture at Pepsi. Congrats and thanks for joining, sir. And if that's not you, we are going to announce one more AirPods winner by the end of the day for anyone who has tried out today's demo and signed up. So the link is there in the chat. So please feel free to still enroll yourself by registering to SingleStore and we'll announce the winner by the end of the day. So thank you, Vinija, for the presentation and today's demo. Thanks everyone for joining. Have a nice day and have a good night, good evening, wherever you are. So, and take care, everyone. All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.